CSIS 2470 is filmed before a live studio audience.
And here we are looking at JavaScript and CSS working together again with the style object / properties. For this one, we're just going to dive right into the code. Let me first start off by showing you what we're going to be making here. This part's already built. This is just the HTML and the CSS. None of the JavaScript works. But the plan is to use this checkbox to change the stacking of the images and the text, or the image and the text. So it'll put the image to the left of it. Then this slider here, which doesn't do anything at the moment, will change the font size. And this clicking back and forth between these two buttons will change the profile image. We'll be able to change the background of the card and the text of the card, all using JavaScript. To the code. And here we are. So let me just quickly walk you through the HTML. Don't panic. It's not complicated. It's just a lot of stuff. So you'll notice here we have this top part, which is the card. This is just the business card. And it's got the profile image and then this section here that has the H3 title, Stone Cold Coding, and then my phone number, right? For some of you, that phone number is hilarious. Some of you are too young for that number to be hilarious. I have these two grouped together in a div so that eventually if I want to put Flexbox on the ID card, that I have two things that are being flexed, the div and the image. The rest is this section down here called controls, and you'll see that each piece of it is just one div that has some stuff in it, or another div with stuff in it. So this is the stack control, and it's just got the input, which is a checkbox that I have a default to checked, and then it's a label that goes along with it. And put that down there so you can see it a little bit better. And then the next one is a radius control. This is going to control the border rather than a input of text type or something like that. It's a range. That's what gives us a slider, and we have these values, minimum, maximum. You can go look up ranges on the w3schools.com/tags, and you can look at the input tag and learn more about that if you want. And then we have another slider that's for the fonts, and the font size range is going to be between 20 and 35. And then the default of that should be 20. That's what I have it set at in the CSS. Then we have the image control. This is one where we swap the picture. And again, it's a simple thing here. Each of these have an on-click function tied to them. We'll be coming back and building those. And this is the profile image number 1. And this is profile image number 2. That's, again, we're looking at the radio button right here, image 1, image 2. So that whole group there is the image control. And then we have the background control. By background, I mean the background color. And it's just the card background color. And these are color types, right? That's how we get these little color selectors here. And then lastly, we have another color selector for the text. And that's it. We're not going to be changing the HTML with one little minor exception we'll talk about later. But this is going to pretty much stay the same, but we will be referring to it because we have to look at the names of our functions that we made and everything. The CSS, I'm going to show it to you in a flash. Not much here. It's just styling up what you see on the screen over there. But here's where we're going to spend our time today. And as always, this code is available to you just down in the lecture notes. You can download it, so don't worry too much about trying to follow along or whatever. Just make sure you understand what we're doing, because that's the goal, understanding, not memorizing. So our plan is to bring in all of the things we've looked at so far that allow us to change the CSS with our JavaScript. Some of the times we changed class names, and that's all we did. We just had a class set up and we just swapped out the class name. Sometimes we just change the style directly using JavaScript, like we learned about in the previous lecture. So we're going to put all these pieces together and maybe refresh our memories on a couple of things about these click functions that we've been building. That'll make our code a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier to look at. All right, let's start with just looking at this interface here. And what do we want to start with? Maybe let's start with this stacked thing right here, right? We want to switch it either from what we're looking at right now, or where the image will be on the left and then the coding and the phone number will be on the right. Let's look at that, the stacked right here. This is the function right here, change stack. And what are we looking for? We're looking to see if the checkbox is on or off. If it's on, we do one thing. If it's off, we do a different thing. Well, if it's on, we want it to look the way it does right now. So let's change it to what happens when we uncheck it. Let's look at that. So remember, we're looking right here. We just called this function. Well, normally, what do we do for that? We will do like, let box equal document dot get element, blah, 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 and get the element. But we don't have to do that. what we can actually do instead, come over here, this object right here, we can use the JavaScript keyword called this. What is this? It is this. It's talking about the object itself. It's very self-referential. And so what happens, oddly enough, when I call this function here, this whole object is passed in as a parameter to our change stack function, right? So it's going to be passed in right there. So we could just get a variable, call it element or something, doesn't matter what we call it. But now I can just go console.log element.checked, and that's going to show us true or false. Because again, element is that entire object. In fact, let's just do element first. Let's come over here, open up the console, refresh, and all these are errors because it's looking for functions that don't exist yet. We haven't built them yet, that's fine. But when I refresh this and I click stacked, we get undefined because I forgot to save my index here. So I'll save the index, refresh. Now when I click it, you see it prints out the object, right? It's printing out the entire input. So we don't need the whole input there. We just want to see its checked status. So refresh it, click it, and it says false. So I click it again, it's going to say true. So that's all we need to know. I just need to know if it's true or false. So if l.checked is true, we're going to do something which right now is just the way it's sort of defaulted. Otherwise, we're going to do something else. Well, what is the something else? We just want to simply change this to display flex. By doing that, because of the way my HTML is structured, let's look at that real quick. Remember, we're going to apply flex to the card ID here. And so that means this will be a flex child and this will be a flex child. So the image will be on the left and the div will be on the right. So essentially what we're doing, basically, here's the div card. We're going to be using JavaScript to create something like this, display flex. And that already, if I refresh, you'll see it changes it like that. Now you see that that's stretching the image. So we're going to next do align items center like so. And then we'll put a gap on there so it's not squished like that. So gap 20 pixels. And that's basically it. But we're not going to do it in here. But those are the three things we're going to modify. Now we could just get another class and use the trick that we've done before where we just swap out the class name or add the class name, and that applies those three things. But I want to get us used to learning what these new properties are in the style object, right? So let's do it that way. First of all, that card, we're going to use that a lot. So let's go ahead and make a global variable called card and set it equal to document.get element by ID. And I think I called it info card. I just called it card right there. So card. So now I can just access that card everywhere in my code. So this is really simple. Card.style. Remember, that's what we use every time. We just call the style object. And then we just pick a property. Well, we want to set display equal to flex, right? Well, display. That's all there is to it. It's the same exact property that we would find in our CSS. And we just set it to flex. And that's it. Okay. So let's come over here, refresh it. And when I click stacked, it's going to call that function and it set it to flex. And if we look at the elements here, let's refresh it again. And we're going to go to the card right here. And you'll see on the card, when I click that stack check, it's going to add some inline style that says display flex right there. But as you'll recall, that stretch is not what we're going for. So we want to center it. Well, you might recall we also did align items, right? So align dash items is how you do it in CSS. Every time you have a dash in CSS, it's going to be a camel case in JavaScript. So we get align items and it is center like that. And again, I'll refresh it and bam, we have exactly what we need except for the gap. And any guesses what that's going to be called? Yeah, gap. And we'll set the gap for 20 pixels. Refresh. And now we click stacked. So right now the check mark is saying yes, we want it stacked. And we uncheck it saying no, we don't want it stacked. And there you go. That's what the card looks like. Now we could do more, but I think that's plenty for just showing this simple idea. But hopefully the point that you're seeing here is it's always the element, right, which is some tag, and then it's the style object and one of the properties. Well, what are the properties? Anything you can do in CSS, that's what the properties are. I can do display in CSS, I can do gap in CSS, I can do align items in CSS. The only difference in the syntax will be if the CSS version has a dash, you're going to replace the dash with nothing and then capitalize the next letter. That's it. You'll notice, however, when I click this, if I check it again, it doesn't go back to being stacked, right? Well, that's a really easy thing to do, because when display is set to block, these properties don't work anymore, right? Align items is only useful or even valid, it only works if you're in display flex. So these two will automatically not work if I just set it back to display flex, or back to display block, I should say. So I just have to set the card to display block, and that's it. So that gives us what we're looking for. Refresh, and now I can toggle back and forth like that. Now you look over here, when I have it back to block, you can see it says display block. It still has a gap of 20 and align items of center, because we didn't undo those, but it doesn't matter. They don't work because we don't have display set to flex. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. Let's look at some of these other ones here. This one right here, we drag it, we want the radius to change. And if we look in our HTML, here's the change stack, that's done. Here's the radius section right here. And you see we have a range, which is the slider, and it has a minimum value of 0 and a max of 50. And then 50 happens to be what I chose because the image is maxed out at 100 pixels. So if I do 50 pixels for the border radius, that's like doing 50%, and so I have a circle. And it starts at the value 0, right? So the function here is change radius, and again, I can just pass in the object using the this keyword, so that way this whole object will be available to me in the function. So I want to make a function called change radius. I'll just copy that so I don't misspell it, and we'll just put it right here. Function change radius. We'll use that variable called element, and all I need is the element value, right? Element.value. Whatever that is, that's going to be our new radius. So it's pretty simple. I just need to grab that image. So the image up here, I need to get that. Well, I can do document.getElementById profile image. And we're going to use that a couple of times. So we might as well make a global variable for that. Let image equal document.getElementById profile image, right? So now this is super easy. Down here in this function, image.style, I want to change the border radius. Well, in CSS, that's border dash radius. So what is it going to be here? Border radius. Now this is a little tricky. If I just do element.value, which again is the value of whatever the slider is set at when we click on it right here, that's not quite enough, because we don't want the border radius to be 20 or 30 or 12. We need it to be 12 pixels or 15 pixels. So we have to concatenate on pixels. So now we're saying set the border radius on the image to be whatever the value of the slider is plus pixel. This whole thing is a string, and that's it. So if we watch, refresh, we slide and then let go, and there we go. We've got a little border radius there. If I go all the way, I get a circle. If I click somewhere in the middle, I get that. Somewhere closer to the beginning, I get little teeny ones. So I can make a circle, move it over like that, change that just by clicking. All right, next up, let's do the font size. It's basically the same kind of thing. It's pretty simple. We come back over here. We have this text control here, and we're going to change the font. And it's the same idea, where it's a range from between 20 and 35. And in my CSS, I set that to be 20. That's what it is when we look at the page right now. That's what it is. It's 20 for that Stone Cold coding, right? So I have the value currently set at 20 here, and then the range is going to go from 20 to 35. So again, we'll just pass in this object as a parameter, and then we'll build this function here, and we can manipulate the font. So again, it's a really small function, right? Function that, and we'll just use element again. It's good enough variable as any. So we need to get our hands on that text. Well, we are going to manipulate that text a couple of times too, because we're going to change the color of it later. So might as well get that here too. And we can say now there's two texts, right? There's a phone number, and then there's also your name. So we'll call it name equal docu.query selector. And I believe it's the only H3 in the document, so I think we're safe doing that. And now down here, all I have to do again, name.style, I want to change the font size. Well, in CSS, that's font-size. So guess what it's going to be in JavaScript, right? Font size. And what do I want it to be? I want it to be whatever the elements, which is that slider, whatever its value is in that number of pixels. That's it. That's the whole function, right? So let's take a peek here, refresh. And now I slide it and I let go, and there we go. We've increased it. Keep going. And now that's way too big, but we can play around. with what we want it to be. Just clicking a little bit. And then if I stack it, make this rounded, maybe I want the font to be bigger. Maybe that's the look I want. Pretty simple, right? Hopefully you're getting the message here that we're just taking the element, the tag. I just mentioned this a minute ago. Calling the style object and this particular property, font size or border radius or align items or gap or display. All these things that we could do in CSS directly. But if it's just in the CSS, then there's no dynamicness to it. With the JavaScript, you can see we're toggling back and forth between it. This is how you can set things up to have a light mode, dark mode website if you want to do that, and a lot of other things. All right, and you have an upcoming project where you have to build a robot, where the user is going to use little controls, kind of like we have here, to make a robot. So hopefully this will get you ready for that. Okay, what do we want to change next? How about swapping the profile images, right? We've got border radius for the image. We got font size. We got stack or not stack. Let's change the profile image. So when I click there, I want the other image to show up. I'm getting the error right now because the function doesn't exist, which is totally fine. Let's come back here. This is the one that says choose profile image 1. This is the one that says choose profile image 2. It's just an input and a label. They both call the swap image function, which we haven't built yet. This one, though, notice that the IDs are different. ID equals picture 1 and ID equals picture 2. They both have the same name, profile pic, that lets them act like a radio button where one toggles the other one on or off. And then what I've done is stored for the value here the name of the profile picture that we're going to use. So profile-1 or profile-2. Those are stored in the image folder. So in this case, it's, again, we can just pass in this each time we call it. And in this case, it'll be extra useful because the values will be different. The value of this will be profile 1, then the value of this will be profile 2. So let's build this function, save this, and come down here and we get function this and element. And again, let's just console this one out for a moment and console the element. I want to show you, refresh. When I click on this one, you can see that that's the entire element right there. And it has ID of picture 2 and then the value of profile2.jpg. When I click number 1, you'll see that it's showing the other object, pic1, profile 1. So I want to just take that value and change the source of the image, which you'll recall we already have made a variable for. So all I have to do here is image.source element. Well, not quite. It's in the image folder, right? So I need to do image / plus element.value. That's it. It's going to put that in the source. Ready? Watch this now. Refresh. Click on number 2. And there's my other profile image. Simple. Goes back and forth between the two. Nothing to it, right? This is a case where we're not even using the style here, right? That's why I said we're going to be using other things besides this new style stuff. This case, there's no style property being manipulated. I'm just simply changing an attribute of the image tag, right? Now, you might recall the other way we did this was where we had the attributes array, we did source, and then we set the node value, right? That will also work, and as you see when I refresh, back and forth between the two images, all right? So either one's fine. Okay, this thing's coming together here. We're almost done. Let's just design a little card here. We'll make it to where it's not stacked. We want a full circle border radius. I want to use the other profile picture, and that looks great in a circle. That's funny. And then the font size, I want to make it huge. And now I just want to change the background color and maybe the text color. That's what these two guys are for right here, which we haven't built yet. So let's take a peek at those. Come over here, and at the very bottom here, we have the background control, and you'll see that it's the label here that just says background color. And then I have a function called change background, and the ID is BG, and it's a type of color. And I have the value set to white, which is why you can see white right there. Okay. And then the text one, it's exactly the same idea. It's just a function called change text color, and I have the type equal color, and I didn't put a default value of anything because the default is black, and so that's fine. I just wanted it to match what was already there. I mean, I could have just as easily, if I left this value off right here, and I refresh it, then it'll show black there, but I didn't want to show black for the background unless the background was actually black. So I wanted these to match what you're actually looking at. So that's why I have it like that. Okay, now you're going to find we have a little bit of a quirk when doing colors. Notice we don't actually have a form here, right? We just have these inputs. I don't actually have these inside of a form. And so everything else has been just fine. When I click on something, it gives us the behavior we want. You're going to find when we click on these colors, it doesn't quite behave the way we're hoping for. Not to worry though, I have a solution. So let's start so I can show you the weird behavior first. Let's change the background. We're going to pass in this so that I have the object. It's going to pass this whole object into this function as a parameter, and that'll give me access to the value. So let's start there. Come over here, function. Why not? We'll do element. So what are we looking for? Well, L.value is going to be some color, right? Let's just prove that. Console is what I meant to say. Console.log L.value. And you might be able to sort of see what's going to be the issue with this. When I click right here, the value it says is FFF, which is white. When I click on the red, notice nothing changed. It didn't print to the console. It's like clicking here doesn't trigger the function. But now that there's red here, when I click that, it will change in the console, right? That's not the behavior we want. We're going to leave it like that for a minute, but we're going to fix that behavior in a couple of minutes. But let's start there, okay? So all we want to do is just take that card, which we've already got a variable for, and we literally just want to change card.style color. So in JavaScript, it's going to be background camel case color. And then we're just going to set it to the element.value. It's that simple, right? Now, refresh it. When I click on it and I choose red, notice it didn't change the background to red. But if I click on that again, it will change it to red, and then it reopens that up. Let's change it to blue, for example. Now notice it's got some blue color chosen here. If I were to click right now on this square, it will change it to blue, but it'll also keep this window open. But the clicking here is what triggers the event. So when that happens, I just have to click somewhere else on the page to get that menu to go away. Again, we're going to fix that in a minute, but for now, let's just leave it that way. So let's make this like a yellow color, and there we go. Hideous, okay? Make that round, and we'll put Thor in there. And oops, I meant to make that round. There we go. That's our business card. Let's change the text color, and then we'll go fix this little quirky bug. It's going to be very similar to what we've got here, right? So let's just take a peek here. We have the change color text, or change text color. We're going to pass in the object again, copy that so we don't typo, and come over here. So now we are changing the text color, and we're changing the name text. We're also going to change the phone number text. So we need to make sure we target that. That is the section called contact. It's that one. So let's just grab that here, and we'll call this phone. Let phone or phone document.get, or sorry, query selector, and we'll do section.contact. And now if I just target phone and name and change the color, we're good. So how do you change text color in CSS? It's just color. So we can just say name.style.color is going to equal the element.value. That's it, right? The element being the color picker. And we'll do the exact same thing for phone. And that's everything. It's going to change. And I'm going to put some spaces there because that kind of bugs me. That's it. So refresh it. And we'll change right now. If I click it, it's black. Let's make it red. And there it's red. And again, there's that quirky thing that we were talking about where I have to click everything twice. We'll fix that. Let's make that black. And we'll make profile and make it round. There's my cool business card, right? So that's the whole thing. We're just going to fix that little buggy thing in a second. But overall, this is very similar to the kind of thing you're going to have to do with your robot assignment. And when you look at the robot assignment, there's a video in there that shows you what I'm looking for, so you get the idea. But all the techniques of the things we're looking at today will help you do that robot assignment. Okay, last piece here. Let's fix that bug. Basically, what we want to do, and there are other ways to do this, and we'll learn some better ways later. But for now, here's a simple way. What we can do is these click events, not on the actual inputs, but on a button that will do both of these at the same time. So let's just make a button here, and we'll call this button, we'll say colors or something like that, right? And then we'll put an on click on here, right? So we'll say on click equals update color. Now this is going to be a little trickier. We can still use these functions, but we won't have the ability to, if I put this here, in other words, that doesn't really do us any good, right? It's just going to pass in this button as the object. So what I essentially want is something like this, right? If I come in here, I want function update, and then I want it to call change text color and change BG. I want it to do that. Problem is right now, BG and text color are expecting a parameter that is an object, an element, a tag or whatever. So this won't work. I have no ability to pass that in here. Now, there's a couple ways around this. I can right here we know what the elements are, right? So I can go do a document.getElementById and grab this thing and then pass that in right here as a parameter and do the same thing here. And then everything will be working just fine. Or I could remove the parameter entirely from both of these functions here. And then inside the functions, do the document.getElementById and grab the element that way. Both will work. Either way, this element, we know that the change background element is this tag right here. And we know that the change text color element is going to be this tag. So we can do that either way. Why not just keep it here in the update colors function? That way we don't have to modify these functions at all. So right here, I can just say let by ID, and the element I want to get is this one right here, and it's this one. So what's the ID? It's just BG. That's simple enough. And I want to change this. We'll go with BG color here. BG color. Right? G. Now, what's this done? This BG right here, its value is that entire input tag. So I'm going to pass that right here in the BG as a parameter, and it's going to go right there. Well, that's the same thing as what we did here when we were passing in this. Now, we're no longer going to do anything when we click on that, so I'm going to delete that. So hopefully that makes sense. All we've done is grabbed the input and passed it in as a parameter right here, because this thing expects as a parameter some sort of a tag. Well, we know which tag we want it to be. We want it to be the input. So let's just start there. And then we're going to do the exact same thing here. I no longer need that because we're going to call it from this update colors function. And again, we're just going to do document getElementById, and it's going to be text color right there. So we come here and we're going to do let, and it's that. And now I can pass this in as a parameter right there. So now what's going to happen, it's going to be a slightly different effect. Beforehand, the second I clicked on the input, it would pass that value right here, and it would change it only if the color that we clicked on. So in other words, it would change it to whatever color is sitting right there. But the way we've got it set now, there's going to be a button there that's going to show up when I refresh, and we will change these. Let's refresh it. So I'll change this to like red and nothing will happen, and I'll change this to like green and nothing will happen until I click update. Once I click update, it's going to see that that's green and that's red, and it's going to apply it up here. So ready, click update, and there we go. So that's a better user experience, right? And maybe we want to put a border around these to show that they kind of work together. And so we might say choose background color, choose text color. Let's just do that. Maybe a little bit clarity, better user experience. So choose background color, choose color, and then we'll say apply chosen colors or something like that, right? That's a little bit better, cleaner user experience. And there we go. This is our control panel, and this is our thing we're manipulating, right? So the whole thing refreshing. Do I want it stacked? Yes. Do I want the border radius on there? Yeah, I'll do about halfway. I like that. I want the font size to be a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit more. That's good. I want to use the other profile image. I want the background color to be something hideous, like this hot pink or something like that. And then I want the text color to be white on top of that. And now look, there's really no easy way to get to white here. I mean, I guess I can get that corner right there. But if you pick the eyedropper, then it becomes a little thingy here where I can just pick the color. Like I could pick black here, I could pick blue on the checkbox. I'll just pick white though, and now it's white. And so now it's going to be a pink background, white text, and I apply the chosen colors, and there's my awesome business card, which is so hideous. Anyway, that's the basic project there. That, again, my hope is, this is probably the 10th time I've said it in this video, so sorry about that. But the hope is you're seeing this pattern here. This is a super easy thing, this style thing. This style object has in it as properties all of the same properties you'll find that you can use in CSS. So that's it. Hopefully this was helpful. This will be available in the lecture notes. And with the example we just built, some of the cases, just swapping out the classes might be better. Like that flex one, it might have been better code to just make a class that has the flex stuff in it. And then when you click on it, it just toggles that class on and off. Maybe that's better. Other cases, however, changing the style directly just definitely makes more sense. So what I want you to do is look over the code, play with it, test it, decide for yourself which way you think is the best for each scenario. And I don't know that there's a super specific, absolute right or wrong answer, but you'll kind of get a feel for it over time as you play with it. And then lastly, take the time to study the resources in the lecture notes to get familiar with both the CSS version of the properties and the JavaScript version of the properties. That's it for today, folks. Thanks again for coming to class. Take a look here at these key points and ask yourself if you know the answer to those questions. If you do, you are ready to take the quiz and you have learned what you needed to learn from this video. We'll see you in the next one.